Hello friends, I'm Rosa, welcome. So we are getting close to my personal favorite time of the year, at least like seasons wise, because I think December just trumps everything. But seasons, it's fall. Hands down, fall. I love fall. I love the cozy vibes. I love that it's changing outside. I like that change more than I like the one in spring as well. I don't know, there's something very magical about fall. And so I thought it would be fitting to talk about a few books that I personally feel are very fitting reads for fall. I have 9. Do I have 9? I think I have 9. Yes. And they are in different genres. Mostly fantasy though, because I have about one fall themed romance and I haven't read it yet, so I feel like I can't really include it in this video. I'm saving it for next month. I'm gonna put it on my TBR in September. But other than that, we got a little bit of like dark academia, we have some mystery, we have some fantasy with romance. I will say, I think for me, a good fall book has it has a certain vibe, and it doesn't necessarily have to take place in a very specified fall setting. It's just a vibe, especially if there's a lot of like forest. I'm automatically like, oh yeah, this is fall. I don't know why. But I just feel that way. Mysteries as well kind of like has that vibe to me. I think mystery is a perfect fall genre, especially if they are mystery with fantasy elements. So you'll see some of that in this video. Also, all but 2 books are by different authors as well. On this, I have I might have missed a couple. I don't know. We'll see. So let's get started with the first one, which is, and I'm pretty sure that I've mentioned this last year in a similar video, but The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sango Mandana, who by the way is coming out with a new book in either here at the end of the year or like somewhere in the first quarter of 2025, and I'm so excited. I can't remember the title, but I loved this so much, so I'm very, very excited for the next release. In this book though, we follow a woman who is a witch. She is supposed to keep that a secret. That's why it's a secret society of witches. But like, she runs social media accounts where she's like posing as a fake witch. So she's secretly a witch, but she's doing it publicly. It's a little bit, you know, a little bit ballsy maybe. And so one day she's contacted by a person who lives in a house. It's supposed to be this house. Because they have a lot of children there that are witches and they need a teacher to teach them how to witch. There's also a guy there who is very grumpy. I think he's the librarian or something like that, so it has like a touch of enemies to lovers as well. I wouldn't necessarily call them full-on enemies though. More like dislike to lovers, or why are you here to lovers, or whatever. The main focus though is, well, the romance is a pretty big part of it, but the main focus though is like it's found family vibes is what it is. And also, perfectly so, it takes place over fall. So it's like leading up to Halloween, I believe it is, because there's a deadline around Halloween. I can't really see, but it's like leading up to, I'm pretty sure it's Halloween because that has significance for witches as well. So this is like super cute and I loved it, and it's cozy fantasy with romance, not high stakes, and just found family. And if you have read House in the Cerulean Sea and you liked it, I'm almost certain that you're gonna love this. A cozy magical romance. Exactly, that's what it is. Yeah, I would maybe call it a romance, but it's kind of in the middle, maybe. Like 50 found family, 50 romance. The romance is a part of the found family vibes as well, so kind of like, I don't know. It's just so good. Such a good fall book, so just read it. Read it, it's so cute. Then we have a little bit of like a mystery situation. A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed, which took everyone by storm. Earlier this year? Was it this year? Last year. Last year in September, maybe? Maybe last year in September. This is like peak fall as well, I feel. Like this was released at the right time. Obviously, they very much thought that through. We follow a girl who, I believe she goes to architecture school, and she's won a competition to renovate this very famous author's house because it's basically falling apart. And when she gets there, things are weird. There's a guy who studies English. This is important, by the way, because it's an author, so that's why I'm specifying it. They don't get along at all, but like he's there for research purposes, and so she ends up helping him because they have these letters from the author and things are weird. Like something strange is going on with this house, and so they decide they would write an article, like a paper on it together, and do research on these letters and this book as well, which the author has written this very famous book, and things are just strange. Very strange. I love this book, by the way. I think up until there was maybe one chapter that kind of threw me off like a little bit, but like other than that, I was feeling the vibes throughout the whole thing. I thought it was so good. I can see myself rereading this at some point as well, once I've like completely forgotten what goes on in it, and then hopefully I won't like randomly remember when I start reading it again. Because it is kind of like, it has mystery vibes. I wouldn't necessarily call it like a full-on mystery, but it has mystery vibes. Also romance, fantasy. If you are very susceptible to horror, maybe there's a little bit of like a scary vibe here and there, but nothing that I would spooky. Is spooky? Spooky's not necessarily scary. A little bit spooky now and then. So I love this so much. Okay. An actual mystery. We have Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. And this is a YA. Oh, I forgot to say, but Studying Drowning is also YA. But this is a YA mystery with some fantasy elements to it, but not a whole lot. It is essentially about our lead girl who is obsessed with cutting up, what is the right term for it? Because I always say cutting up bodies, but that sounds so, yeah, autopsies. She, forensics and autopsies, that sort of thing. It's not like necessarily cutting up bodies, okay, but forensics, autopsies. That's her thing. She just, burning passion for it, okay? And so, but she's a woman, and we're back then, because this takes place in like 18 whatever, and back then we're seen as this like weaker kind of gender. We can't handle scalpels and whatever, and so she's not really allowed to partake in classes for it. However, I think she does, but like it's kind of looked down upon for doing it or whatever. So she ends up taking an apprenticeship with her uncle, where this other guy as well, he's an apprentice there too, and they don't get along, whatever, it's fine. They will, so don't worry about it too much. And then murders start to happen around London, and these two people, our lead girl and our lead guy, decide to team up and sort of, you know, find out like why these murders weird. Let's solve them. Let's solve the murders. And so it's about that. It's about their little journey to solving and figuring out who the heck Jack the Ripper is, or at least like Jack the Ripper in this story. Obviously inspired by the actual case of Jack the Ripper, but like I said, there is a bit of a twist to it. So, and I wouldn't necessarily full on haunting Dracula? I don't think it's called Haunting Count Dracula. Hunting? No, did I say haunting? I meant hunting. Hunting Dracula, I think, is the title of the sequel, and I wouldn't necessarily call that like a full-on fall vibe either, so just be aware of that. This, however, gave me fall vibes. Is it London 1864? Why do I want to call it 1864? 1888. Oh, is it you? Are you London 1864? 1878. I don't know where I got that 1864. Is it? No, it's not you. Never mind. You take place after. Where did I get the 1864? Anyway, it takes place in 1888, so kind of historical fiction as well, I suppose. But like, yeah. Then we have The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones. I've still not read The Drowned Woods, but I might read that sometime in like October or something. Who knows? I think it would be a fitting October read maybe. This, however, is like, it's YA fantasy, there's a romance in there as well, and it's very heavily inspired by, where are they from? Yeah, classic horror, but also fairy tale. It takes inspiration from certain fantasy or like mythical elements from, it's either Welsh or it's Ireland. I can't fully remember, but there's something like something. So we follow our lead girl who's living with her siblings alone because her parents are gone. They're no longer in the picture. And they live in this little town that is being haunted by bone houses that are skeletons that have come alive, and they are basically, they're not zombies, skeletons, and they're killing people and causing havoc, and it's very dangerous. And so one day this guy comes to the town, and our lead girl and him decide to wander off to the woods where the bone houses they sort of are during the day, because they want to figure out where they come from, what's the cost of this, we want to stop it, people are unsafe, and the two teenagers just feel like it's their responsibility to sort this. So they, you know, go off into the woods, into the mountains, and try to solve the mystery of what is going on in this town with the bone houses. And there may be more mythical creatures than just, or fantastical creatures than just the bone houses as well. So I believe there's, or is it just the Drowned Woods that's inspired specifically? Because it doesn't say anything on this page. I was kind of hoping that it would say like includes elements, fantastical elements from this specific country or something, but no. I just feel like I remember something later on that I was like, I had to look it up, and it's from some certain place. Anyway, I'm saying this because I find it very fascinating when they include fantasy elements that are inspired by like stories or like very old stories from countries, and then they have like a creature from one of those stories, and there's a creature in this inspired by that specific creature, like kelpies in the Scorpio races. Not necessarily something that I would come across in a lot of books, so it's very exciting to learn a little bit about them, even if it's through the Scorpio races. But yeah, the bone houses, mystery, horror as well. I'm pretty sure it's, I like this. I just realized I like this color combination. Horror vibes as well, but YA and a little bit of a romance. Next up is another mystery actually. We have Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. This is a mystery, a romance. We follow is it the guy or the girl who's left the island? It's the guy. Okay. So we follow a girl who has a woman by now. She's in her 20s. She's a woman. Too much YA. Like, I start talking about everyone as if they're young people. Anyway, so we follow this woman who lives on an island. It's kind of secluded, but actually they get a fair amount of tourists there, but it's still like away. It's very different there, and you know, they have a small town and everyone's very tight-knit. Everyone knows each other, and she's been living there her entire life. Her long ex-boyfriend from when she was younger returns to the island one day. He ran off back in the day because her best friend was murdered and he was suspected of having murdered her. So he was basically like chased away. Like he had to flee the island because everyone, without him being prosecuted for this and sent to jail and stuff, like everyone just assumed that it was him despite there not really being evidence for it. So he was kind of chased off the island, and then he decided to come back. And he's just not welcome there. He's only there because he has to bury his mother's ashes, but everyone wants him gone, except for our lead girl. And then weird things start to happen around the island. There's a lot of like magic woven into this, but it's not in-your-face fantasy. She is, I believe she's considered somewhat a witch. I can't remember exactly, but there's a certain like magical vibe to this. And a lot of talk about seasons and how this magic is like connected to the seasons as well. So I'm getting fall vibes from this because of this, but also it's just the vibe of the book. And I think that mixed with like the witchy talk and the mystery aspect of it as well just kind of gives me fall vibes. So this was a very good read for fall, I think, if you want something that's a little bit more adult instead of the YA. Also, the romance is a pretty central part of this as well, so just want to let you guys know. Got 2 more YA books here. Well, 3 more, but the last one is like upper YA. These are pretty mid-YA, if you will. They're by the same author, which is why I'm holding them up at the same time. It's Rachel Griffin. We have her first book, which is The Nature of Witches, and then also Wild is the Witch. And I think this like witchy, the witchy aspect of it gives me fall vibes, so that's why I'm going to include them in this. But let's start with The Nature of Witches, which in itself, you can probably tell, pretty fall vibe-ish. In this one, we follow our lead girl, who's a witch in a... It's actually quite interesting. So, witches in this book, they are known to exist. And they are very connected with like the environment. So with the environment going a little bit crazy, the witches are, there's a lot of pressure on witches, and they need this one specific witch who's powerful throughout all of the seasons, because like each season has witches connected to it, so they have their powers during that season, and then for the other seasons it's kind of dormant. But there's one specific witch that is able to do magic throughout all of the seasons, and she's this witch but she's terrified of her powers. She doesn't really want anything to do with it, and she's been very hesitant to practice her powers as well. And so it's about her basically getting reconnected with her powers. So it does take place throughout the entire year. It's not just a fall read, but again, witches for me, for some reason, just giving fall vibes, and I think the vibe of this book overall as well is very fall vibe-ish. Bit of a romance in this one as well. There's a guy who she is practicing with who they have a little bit like a tension-filled relationship, if you will, so it's not just like rainbows and happiness right away. But they're pretty cute. And I thought the whole aspect as well with the witches actually being known to exist was very interesting as well. And the fact that they help the world and the environment being controlled because of, you know, global warming and you know that stuff. So it's pretty cool in that way. But that was the nature of witches. And the other one is Wild is the Witch. This doesn't necessarily take place during fall either, but we got witches, we got, you know, forest vibes, and for me it just has that vibe. So in this one we follow our lead girl who is also a witch, but she is in secret. She's a witch in secret. She works at this, what is the word for it? It's like a wildlife reservoir, a place for wild animals to find, like one of those places. I can't remember what the word for it is right now. And she's keeping her powers a secret. She's not supposed to let anybody know that she has these powers. I think it's run by her mom as well, which is kind of relevant, so I just want to put that out there. There's a guy who is also working at this place, and the two of them don't get along at all. Like he's rude. And so one day she unfortunately for her, gets a little bit angry and indirectly takes it out on him without him knowing, so she writes up a curse. She does this thing whenever she's having a bad day, she writes up a curse, but then she like throws it away instead of actually putting it out there. She just needs to get it out of her system. So like she writes it down and then just it goes nowhere. But unfortunately this time she writes the curse and then it's picked up by an owl and it flies off with the curse. And unfortunately this owl is an amplifier. So when it gets its hands or claws on this curse, that came out like completely automatically. I don't know. Anyway, it's fine. And it turns out that this curse as well is like one that's going to give everyone magical powers, which is super dangerous. Our lead girl is like, oh shoot, I gotta get this curse back. And so she gets help from the guy to go chase down this owl to get the curse back and like make sure that nobody gets hurt from it. And the two of them, while on this little trip, if you will, start to go closer, and we learn some things about him, why he doesn't like witches, because he doesn't like witches, and also why she's keeping her powers a secret and what's happened with some people that she knew in the past. And it has nice vibes. I read this with a book club and I enjoyed it quite a lot, so I hope they enjoyed it as well. But yeah, it was cool, it was nice, chill, fun, and had the vibes. Oh, I forgot. Nice. This one has it as well. Nice. But my Bring Me Your Midnight arrived like a year after it was released. After I bought it. Doesn't have any art on the naked cover. I'm so sad. Anyway, second to last book, we have Ninth House by Lee Bardugo. This is Ninth House. It's just the Illuminated edition, so I just realized there's no title on the front page. It does have this though, which is so cool, right? That's pretty cool. That's a nice touch. Anyway, this is a dark academia-ish mystery, magic, fantasy, ghosts, a little bit like a touch of horror in there as well, I would say. We have to do with secret societies. We follow our lead girl, whose name is Alex, and she has had a very difficult past. She's able to see ghosts and talk to ghosts. This is very, very, very relevant because of this, she ends up at, where is it? Yale? It's Yale. She ends up at Yale with a scholarship because she has to help a very small group at Yale to keep an eye on the secret societies that have formed at Yale because they want to make sure that they don't do rituals and like forbidden magic that they're not supposed to do. So she's a part of this group who keeps an eye on everyone and makes sure that they follow the rules. They can still do their thing, but just not the stuff that they're not allowed to do. And then one day she comes across the body of a dead girl at campus. And Alex knows that she should stay away from this. Like, this is not her business. This is not supposed to, like, maybe just like take a step back for once, but no, she can't really convince herself not to get involved in it, and ends up basically taking it upon herself to figure out who's at fault for this dead girl just lying in the street. And so it's about that, primarily anyway. I have not yet read because Alex knows that secret societies are far more sinister and extraordinary than anyone ever imagined. They tamper with forbidden magic, they raise the dead, and sometimes they prey on the living, which they're not supposed to do. So I've not read the sequel yet. I think I started it earlier this year and then it was returned on my Libby. So I have to dedicate a little bit more time to just reading it once I get my hands on it again. But I liked what I read of the sequel so far. This though, I freaking loved. I can't remember, I think I gave it 4.5. I just loved it so much. Definitely like dark academia as well, along with like witchy stories or like mysteries that take place in forests. Automatic, just automatic autumn picks for me, or fall picks. So this is one of those. And then lastly, we have one which is a little bit gothic, and that is why I feel like I'm gothic and has to do with death. It's Belladonna by Adeline Grace, and gothic, we have to do with death. We have to do with ghosts as well, and I feel like that's like peak fall vibes as well. So we follow our lead girl who is able to talk to death after she has a baby. There was a thing happened, and was it like a gathering or something? Everyone around her died. She survived. And since that day, she's been able to talk to death, and death has been a little bit, I don't want to say obsessed, but very taken with her since then. I'm saying this is upper YA because she is 19, and the romance is not necessarily like a lot of other YA that I've read. It's not that there's smut in it or like that, but I do feel like it has a different vibe than a lot of other YA romances that I've read. So I just wanted to clarify before I forget. But as she is no longer, her parents are no longer there, they're gone. She is the heir to their money, but she doesn't have access to it for a little bit, so she ends up living with like her uncle or something. And she has a cousin who is deathly sick. So sick that they're getting very close to dying, and because of this, death is kind of like looming over this, and so the situation, the sickness. And because of this as well, there's their mother, not her mother, but their mother, the ghost of their mother shows up and lets our lead girl know, Signa I think her name is. I'm doing this as if she's on the cover, but I realized just now that she's not. Anyway, it's the US cover she's on. Anyway, she shows up and talks to Signa and says that she was actually poisoned. And so Signa is like, oh shoot, maybe since she was poisoned, this is also happening to my cousin. And so she decides that she's basically like makes a deal with death, and they have to cooperate and figure out who's doing the poisoning. So it's a little bit like it's gothic because of the setting. We got to do with death, ghosts. It has like slight horror vibes as well, but not like, maybe I wouldn't call it horror vibes. It's just like the setting. But there's a bit of a mystery as well, and the romance. So just want to say, but it's giving fall vibes for me. I think all 3 books as well were released around fall time, so that's a pretty good indicator that that's, or maybe not, because a lot of books are actually released during fall time. But I feel like all the ones where I'm like, yeah, that's fall, like, are released during fall. Like, it just makes sense to me. I don't know. So anyway, we have Belladonna, and that is it for this video. So if you've read any of the books, let me know if you agree, or if you have like another kind of fall vibes to you or something else, let me know as well. If you have any other books that just, without necessarily taking place during fall, give you fall vibes anyway, let me know, because I need to add some to my TBR, and so I would love new suggestions, especially if you have some romance ones, because I genuinely think I only have one. It's In the Weeds by B.K. Borison, but that's about it, so let me know. But that is all I got for you guys today, so I hope you enjoyed it. There will be links to all of the books in the description box down below if you want to go check them out. Because I know that I'm not necessarily the best at summarizing books. I get a little bit like, I'm a little bit all over the place at times. So if you're confused about anything, feel free to go read the descriptions through the links. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to hit the thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this from me, but also all the other booktube stuff, definitely consider sticking around by clicking on the subscribe button. However, that is all I got for you guys today. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Oh, you're beautiful, and it's like